Hi, Dr. H here with Family-Centered Parenting. Good to see you again. Today, I'm going to talk about one of the toughest periods of parenting, and that's parenting adolescence. And it's so important to understand a little bit more about adolescent development and what's going on, and that really will infuse parents with the knowledge they need to deal with our adolescents in a positive way. I have found over the years working with families that sometimes all the techniques that they used with younger children seem to fall apart when they deal with adolescents. And that's because they're not taking into account fully the developmental changes that occur during adolescence. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to go over a quiz. And this is a quiz I've prepared for workshops that I've done for parents of teens and preteens. And in that quiz, it's 10 items, true, false, and I'll give you at the end of this discussion, I will tell you how you can get a copy of the quiz if you're interested in seeing the questions for yourself. So let me start off with number one. Girls who experience either physical or emotional absence from their fathers enter puberty earlier than well-fathered girls. True or false? On surface, your first answer would be, well, how could that be possible? Something like starting a menstrual cycle is genetically involved, hormonal, and what should it have to do? We don't know why, but the answer is actually true. Studies have shown that girls who are not fathered properly, either physical or emotional absence or abuse, or poorly fathered, will have their menstrual cycle even earlier. Number two, at age 18, our brain development can be characterized as an adult brain. True or false? False. And this is the key to understanding adolescence. 18 might be a legal standard for adulthood, certainly in criminal courts. For other matters, it's 21. But certainly to be viewed as an adult fully in our society and take responsibility as an adult, it's usually 18. But so much is still happening in the brain. In fact, recent studies have shown that our fully developed brain doesn't really kick in till our mid-20s. Believe it or not, till our mid-20s. And that's especially true for boys, which takes them just a little bit longer. So we'll talk about the implications of the fact that they really do not have a fully developed adult brain when they're 18 years old, and certainly through their teenage years. Number three, the onslaught of hormones in adolescent boys accounts for their aggression and risk-taking behavior. Mostly true. It's hormones, but there's also the brain. The prefrontal cortex of our brain, which is located behind the forehead, that area of the brain, which really is our organizer, our judgment place, where we control our emotions, that especially is not fully developed. And that for boys and girls, and that makes them much more prone to take risks because they're processing the consequences of their risks is just not the same as an adult brain. So the combination of hormones and development makes risk-taking behavior pretty strong in boys. And I don't know an adolescent boy, and those parents and men, we all know some of the really dumb things we might have done when we were in our adolescence. And sometimes we were lucky we got away with them. If we were unlucky, it could have had implications for our adult lives. Number four, it is normal for adolescents to push away from their parents in order to figure out who they are. So true. And the fancy term in psychology is adult ideation. And that means that a young person needs to develop their identity of who they are, not just as a product of their parents. They're trying to find out who they are. And that means that they have to push away sometimes from their parents to figure out who they are. So good parenting, we tolerate, we understand, we talk about that push away. Parents who aren't fully aware and don't take that into account are the ones who get hurt by their child's rebellion, pushing away. They don't want to go to church anymore. They don't want to do some of the things that they used to do as a family. It's all an attempt to figure out who they are as individuals in the world. So be aware of it and understand that. Number 5, girls who experience either physical or emotional absence from their fathers are more likely to be sexual risk takers. So that goes back to the first one about the early menstrual cycle. Apparently that happens more and with girls, that somehow seeking certain reinforcement from males, etc., they're more likely to be sexual risk takers if they're not properly fathered. So it's not just the father present, but it's good fathering. And that's so important in the development of boys and girls, but girls in a unique way, why good fathering is so important. Number 6, adolescents tend to value the opinion of peers above all others. Well, that's so true. Peer pressure, what their peers think, not standing out, having a group to identify with, particularly in the high school years. There's so many different cliques, whether you're a jock or a nerd or whatever, an artsy kid, neo-hippie. There's so many different names, and it's all looking for that acceptance of a peer group. So be aware that this is going on, and the opinion of peers on the surface is going to be more important than what you have to say as a parent, and you need to manage that. Adolescents, number 7. Adolescents are not good at understanding other people's emotional messages. Very interesting. Some great studies have been done and showing that adolescents misread emotional cues more than younger children and adults. In their brain development, this is one of the factors. They're not reading those cues as well. So that's when our adolescents will tell us, teacher doesn't like me, my friends dissed me, whatever. And sometimes they're right, and many times they're wrong and didn't pick it up. It's just that they didn't read the emotional cues accurately. And as a parent, it's important to say, okay, I hear what you're saying, I'm validating that, but tell me about what made you reach this conclusion. And by doing that, you can help them really understand the emotional cue that they might have misrepresented. Number 8, adolescents are prone to idolize entertainers or sports figures. Absolutely true. And again, it goes back to, who am I? Who am I going to identify with? Who's a role model other than my parents who is trying to give meaning to my life? So sometimes there's that hero worship that we see in adolescence, either a movie star, music star, rap music, sports figure, depending upon what they're into, they will find someone to idolize. Number 9, adolescents are not well equipped to deal with the complexities of decision making. And that unfortunately is true. Again, if your brain is not fully developed, especially that prefrontal cortex, the executive portion of our brains, which helps us organize our lives, which help us control our impulses, if that's not fully developed, then dealing with complex issues becomes even more of a struggle for adolescents. So we need to help them break down a complex problem, help them organize their thoughts and their day, and that will go a long way to alleviate that problem of decision making. Finally, question number 10. An adolescent who sleeps for more than 8 hours is just lazy. And that's false. Studies have shown that adolescents need more sleep than adults. And often the adolescent who's getting 6 or 7 hours or less sleep is not going to be functioning well. And that leads us to another bugaboo of mine in how many high schools start as the earliest in the school district. And there are school districts around the country who are now understanding this, that their adolescents, the early morning is not a great time for adolescents. Elementary school kids, they're morning people. They're ready to go. They don't need to wait around for a late bus. But an adolescent should be getting a fairly adequate amount of sleep. And at 8 hours, even 8 hours is not enough. Probably 9 or 10 is probably will lead to the maximum functioning of an adolescent. So again, this adolescent quiz is an attempt to focus on some of the unique developmental milestones and understanding what goes on in the adolescent brain. Now, of course, the question is, okay, if that's going on, how do I deal with it? And then I'll go back to what we talk about in our family-centered parenting program. By the way, I'll plug Family-Centered Parenting, my book, Your Guide to Growing Great Families, available on Amazon, and also far more information on our website, familycenteredparenting.com. And if you fill out the form on the website and request a copy of this adolescent quiz, I will be happy to email it to you. But in the book and in the family-centered program, we talk a lot about how to structure the family meeting. And in the family meeting, especially the problem-solving and rehearsal family meetings, many of these issues of adolescence, this is the time to hash them out, especially when we talk about who they are, what their values are, what's going on in their lives, their emotional excesses, which we know adolescents often will behaving what we as adults consider emotional excess. And by responding in the right way, especially in a family meeting with good communication skills, will go a long way in making adolescent an interesting, it's challenging, but could be fun and an interesting time of parenting. And remember, this is usually coming to the tail end of our day-to-day parenting with our children, because often when they reach 18 or go off to college or find their way in the world, they're not there every day. So in a sense, this is almost our last hurrah in the daily parenting experience. So for now, signing off. Hope to see you again. Bye-bye.